Okay, so we're gonna settle the difference once and for all. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Pao if you're new here, and today we are finally going to set the difference and set the record straight between tropical and Vedic astrology, also known as sidereal, depends on how you pronounce it. I say sidereal, so that's how we're gonna go moving forward. Now, there's been a lot of debate online and back and forth between which one is more valid, which one is real versus what's more accurate. And honestly, the short answer is this. Keep on watching this video. The short answer is they're both correct. I started off studying tropical astrology back in like 2017, and then I transitioned to Vedic astrology around the pandemic. Was it 2017? Yeah, 2017. So honestly, don't freak out if you've been using tropical astrology this whole time and you didn't know about Vedic or the sidereal zodiac. It really depends on how you personally interpret it and what feels more accurate to you. I like to look at it as they're both two different sides of yourself, one of that you're growing into and the person who you are innately. So with all that being said, let's dive right into this topic. Both are right in their own ways. They are just different ways of looking at the sky. Let's start off with Vedic astrology. Vedic is based off of the sidereal zodiac, and sidereal just means stars. So a lot of us tend to take up an interest in astrology. We dive into tropical astrology, fall in love with it, see everything that there is to know about it, and then we end up finding about Vedic astrology and then learning more about that and becoming obsessed with that. So it's really important to know the history of Vedic astrology and where it comes from. Vedic astrology actually comes from religious and spiritual texts that stems from the Hindu religion known as the Vedas. And Vedas actually translate to infinite knowledge. So when you are studying Vedic astrology, you are actually embarking on a spiritual path to self-realization and actualization. Another well-known limb of the Vedas would be Ayurveda or yoga. When used correctly, it can be a really profound tool to learn some really magical things about ourselves and the people around us. It is a complete system that is very astronomically precise. And the key difference between Vedic and tropical astrology is that it does account for the precession of the equinox. So around every 72 years, the Earth's axis, it's actually tilting about 1 degree. So Vedic astrology takes that into account when looking at the stars, which makes it a very accurate science. So when you look at the constellation Aries in the sky, it's never going to change. That position is always going to be the position of Aries. Whereas tropical astrology looks at it more as from where the Earth is facing. So it takes the spring equinox and wherever that is, wherever the Earth is facing, that's where Aries begins. So because of this precession, there is about a 23.5, 24 degree difference between Vedic and tropical astrology. So what does this mean for you? So I would then say, pull up your birth chart to take a look at the degrees of your planets. If there are any planets that go higher than the degree of 23, then you're probably still that sign. If you do have any planets that are under 23 degrees, then you are probably the sign of the season beforehand. So let's say your sun sign is still at 25 degrees Aries. Because you made that 23 degree cutoff, you would still be in Aries in Vedic astrology. If you were at 14 degrees Aries, for example, then you would likely be a Pisces in Vedic astrology. If you are at 15 degrees Capricorn, then you're likely a Sagittarius. But if you're at 27 degrees Capricorn, then you're still a Capricorn. Are you catching on now? Another big difference between the two types of astrology are going to be the charts. In Western tropical astrology, you're going to have a circle chart displayed. So your rising sign is always going to start on the left-hand side, marked as the AC, standing for ascendant. Here I've set the chart to be in a whole sign setting, which just means that the houses are equally divided. If you see unequal slices of the pie when you populate your chart, it's probably because the settings are set to placidus. This just means that it's a more numerically accurate display of your chart. The houses are always going to be in a fixed position, meaning that each slice of the pie is always going to be dedicated to that house. It's not going to change. So the first house will always be the first, the second will always be the second, and so on and so forth. Most astrology apps will display your chart in a table-like setting, like the one that you see in the left-hand corner, for a more straightforward guide to your chart. But what I appreciate about seeing the actual chart is that you can get a more visual aspect of it. You can see what houses are more populated, which houses are empty, what's facing each other, and it just leads to a better overall holistic understanding of your chart. On the right-hand side, we have two types of Vedic astrology charts, the South Indian and the North Indian chart. South Indian looks kind of like a board game versus the North Indian is more like diamonds. The South Indian chart has fixed signs, so that means that the corner boxes will always be in Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, and Sag, going clockwise. Whereas the North Indian chart, it's going to be similar to Western tropical in the sense that the houses are never going to change. So the middle diamonds will always be the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th house going counterclockwise. And the signs would then change based on your chart. So both astrologies are looking at the same sky, but have developed their own ways of interpreting it. So it's really, really crucial that you are paying attention to which form of astrology you are following, depending on if you're booking a reading or watching a video like this one. Some people say that they are different sides of yourself. Like tropical astrology could be the person that you're growing into, since it is still a little bit more ahead by like a month. And that Vedic astrology is who you are at your core, who you were born to be and how you came into this earth. Other people say that tropical astrology is your outside and Vedic astrology is your inside. Another key difference between the two that I forgot to mention was that in Vedic astrology, it is more significant to look at your rising and moon sign over your sun sign. In Western tropical astrology, we are so used to referring to our sun sign as that is who we are. We say I'm an Aries or I'm a Leo, because in Western tropical astrology, that position is the position that represents us and more so our ego. Whereas in Vedic astrology, our moon sign represents more of our personality and who we are when you really get to know us. So it's more beneficial to look at it on that end when you are practicing Vedic astrology. The rising sign is also very significant because it reflects how we present ourselves to the world. In Vedic astrology, it is believed that the moon exhibits more feminine energy and the sun exhibits more masculine energy. So with that being said, we are tapping more into the divine feminine side of things. Hope that all of this is making sense rather than the masculine side in tropical astrology. So let's go through what makes these two actually similar. Now, the one thing that they do have in common is that they are actually not that far off when it comes to tracking of transits. If in tropical astrology, the sun is conjunct the moon, then it's most likely that in Vedic astrology, the sun is also going to be conjunct to the moon. This is just referring to where the planets are relating to one another depending on their positions in the sky. That's when you can get into conjunctions, trines, squares. I like to look at it as if these are characters with all different feelings towards each other depending on who they're hanging out with at the time. But yeah, they both essentially have the same principles. The planets, signs, and houses all have the same meanings. It's just pretty much where they're placed that could be slightly shifted. It also depends on your astrologer's particular interpretation. So no, even though Vedic astrology is astronomically correct, your Western chart isn't totally wrong either. They both show you different sides of yourself, and it all just depends on what you find helpful. I hope that this video was helpful to you, and if you enjoyed it, feel free to subscribe for more and let the algorithm know that you liked it. So add a little comment or share to a friend, and just remember that pretty girls love astro. Bye guys.